All right, I'm going to assume that if you're still watching this little mini series here, that you're actually about that money, honey. You looking for that money. So where is it coming from? So for me personally, I will say that if I have a long-term hold strategy on a property, I really like to focus on cash flow. Now, real quickly, we talked last time about the fact that cash flow is just that difference between what my expenses are on a property and what the income are. Now, I want to give you a couple little tips and tricks ahead of time to kind of keep yourself out of some of the hot water, okay? What happens many times is people don't factor in all of the expenses of a property, particularly when they're starting, because they have things that they kind of forget, or they don't really value their own time and effort that they're putting into a property. For example, with a property management fee. And so sometimes people like to manage their own properties. I highly recommend actually outsourcing that for a couple different reasons. A good property manager is worth their weight in gold. Even just in the idea of like finding somebody. If you're a busy, person, it's very difficult to run interviews and look through applications just to be able to find the time to do that. But perhaps even more importantly is, what the hell am I looking for? Am I looking for a best friend here? Am I looking for an 800 credit score? And so again, avoiding pitfalls and learning from other people's mistakes, I think, is some of the best education that you can get. And it's really hard to put a dollar value on that. So property management companies, charging somewhere between 6 and 12%, typically somewhere in through there. That's a wide range, yes, but we got a wide range network of viewers out here, okay? So give me some break, cut me some slack. We're usually somewhere in this 8 to 10% range where we exist. And that's freaky. There's a ghost in the house. So I can't even think. There's like a chill going over me. All right. So going in through this cash flow. So other things that you want to consider are, owning property, I will say, is a little bit like kind of living in the rainforest. It's not a matter of if it's going to rain. It's gonna rain. It's a matter of when, okay? And so it rains in a couple of different ways on your parade as you're holding a rental. Through vacancy. If you have a turnover of a tenant, how long is it gonna take you to clean that unit out, get it back over to that rental condition, find the proper tenant, and to put somebody else back in? That ties right back into the property management piece that I was just talking about. Is somebody else going to be able to do it quicker than you can? If it takes you 6 months to decide who to put in there, but a property management company can place somebody in 2 weeks, like, how much money are you actually saving? You're actually losing money. So there's a lot of different ways to think like that. Other expenses to think about are your insurances, right? Are you paying utilities or not? Repairs, renovations, capital expenditures, things going wrong, like, oh shit, I need a new roof. And so how do you kind of factor that in? And so I talked in a previous video that I'm very pro leverage, but I talked about doing it in a smart way. And it's being able to weather some of those storms, because those storms will come. I remember when we first started investing, we built ourselves up. I think we had like 3 flips going on at a time. We had our own personal residence, and then we had, I think, 2 or 3 rental properties. And I remember looking one day, and a couple of those rentals went vacant. I was like, holy we got a lot of mortgage payments to make this month, and it was kind of like a gut check. There was another summer where, sure enough, we got 2 rentals going. Both hit the market in June. Were quickly rented. If anybody's been in North Carolina in June, gets a little hot, and both of the AC units went out. So we just took the properties down, put some money into them, just was finally happy to get a tenant in them, and like, oh, by the way, here's a couple additional expenditures. So, not having a runway for some of that stuff can get you into hot water. Love leverage, but you've got to make sure that you do it wisely so that you don't lose a portfolio. That's one of the saddest things for me, is to see somebody build up a portfolio and lose it due to stupid mistakes. So you do want to consider those things. But getting back into the exciting portion is the idea of this cash flow portion, where I have income coming into the property. My income from the property is here. My expenses are here, and I get to cash flow that delta. Now, I talked about all that previous stuff because knowing about it, I did another video about faith versus fear, right? So you just got to know certain stuff. And I'm not afraid of it. I just need to be afraid of it. I just have to know enough about it, right? And so when I know that's coming, when I see that first little bits of cash flow coming into my account, I'm not going to Disney, baby. I'm putting that in the bank to make sure that I can weather the storms for when I need them. And as you've built up an appropriate amount of reserves, I recommend a reserve for each property that you hold so that it can go vacant and I can paint it and pay a couple mortgage payments before I put somebody into it, and handle something if something else comes up. Once I've built up that reserve for each property that I have, then maybe you start playing around with that cash flow, or if you're in a better position, reinvesting it. A lot of different ways to go about that. So cash flow is probably one of the most exciting portions for me. There's ways to increase cash flow. We talked about rezoning properties. People do some cool things with Airbnbs and short-term rentals, where you could sometimes take a $1,200 a month rental and increase your income to $3,600 a month by going short-term rental avenue. Larger properties, multifamilies, people do cool things with renting out storage units or doing utility rent paybacks, and some cool stuff in through there. But making sure that you do things smartly. So that's the main cash flow that you don't even theoretically, you actually can see that hit your bank account. The other cash flow, if you remember from my previous video that I talked about, was Phantom. Yeah, the Phantom, this darn Phantom that just sent the chills down my neck. Sometimes there's things that you just can't see. And so this phantom cash flow comes from mortgage buy down. So I have a mortgage on a property. Every time I make the mortgage payment, ideally it's getting made from somebody else, right? I have a tenant in the property and they're the ones that are actually helping me pay the mortgage. As they're paying that down, I get a mortgage buy down every single month. Now do know that loans are heavily weighted with interest in the beginning of the loan. So if you look at your pay scale, your first couple months might be $1,000 payment, and 90% of it is going towards interest, and only 10% going towards the principal. But it is $10. That's $10 worth of phantom cash flow, and then you'll see that changes the longer that you hold the property. Another benefit to riding things out, perseverance, making it through, right? Don't give up so early. A lot of people give up too early in their careers, give up too early on their goals, because the goods come later. We talked about seasons before. The harvest is later. You got to put the hard work in now. So those are two ways that I love of increasing my cash flow and increasing my net worth through the phantom cash flow. Two amazing, healthy portions. Like we talked about icing in the last video, this is like the main event sometimes for me on a deal. I want to make sure that I can cash flow on a month-to-month basis, and then the appreciation, like I talked about in our last video, is more of that icing on the cake. So hopefully that helps. Again, any questions, let me know. Put in the comments below. The reason why I do this is because I want to help people. I want to help people get started in real estate, and not just get started, but get started and be successful. So any questions, comments, go ahead and put them in the comments below. Reach out to me. Until next time, Zachary Betters wishing you a great day and a better tomorrow.